Good evening, class. I think everybody or every one of us knows why are we assembled here. And today being 26th of January, I somewhere consider that this is to be an auspicious day. Now please don't come back to me and say, sir, today is Republic Day. I think that is the reason for your consideration. But for us, we being UPSC aspirants and we being aspiring for 2024, I think from today we are going to have 4 months for our prelims examination, which is going to be held on May 26th, 2024. Now in that context, we see that we are going to have a 1.5 hour session of looking into various aspects of prelims examination. And when we look at these various aspects of prelims examination, you would see that whatever I am going to discuss with you today, it is purely on the basis of the experience within the exam hall, not outside the exam hall. That means it is purely on the basis of experience and observations, and also that an experience with respect to guiding more than 200 plus students in clearing prelims examination for last 3 years. With that basis, if you look at today's session, we are going to have 4 parts. One starting with what are the general mistakes that we make, and next we will also have to see that what is going to be our plan or what is the way forward for next 4 months, such that we are consistent and also we are restricted and we are limited to a particular set of books which is going to make our journey easy for next 4 months. And in common, what do we observe is now prelims examination has become a devil, right? Be it the market perception, be it the way you approach, be it the way you look at it, be it the way you perceive, and be it the way you do all kinds of stunts to clear this examination. Now for just next 1 hour 15 minutes or 1.5 hours, we will just look into certain perspectives which are purely based on experience, and also we will also look into the perspectives which are purely based on a strategy which has been working to more than 250 plus students. Now in that context, how is my next 1.5 hour going to be spanned? That the initial aspect of the lecture I would discuss about why is actually prelims getting tough, and to put it again, is prelims really tough? First question. Now if I say easy, you will definitely pelt stones at me, I know, right? वो तो पता है. But let's look at some perspectives on that particular basis. Then from there we will move into that what kind of strategy that we need to imbibe for next 4 months. Because most of us would definitely be confused with respect to should I solve more tests, should I solve or should I revise more of my static, or should I look into more of notes which has been given by somebody, that institute, this institute, or what should be my way forward for the next 4 months is what is my big question. The third aspect of this particular lecture that we would discuss is with respect to that what is that particular checklist that you are supposed to look into before you enter prelims hall, in the sense that what kind of sources should we refer, what kind of limitations are we supposed to restrict to, and what kind of realizations are we supposed to enter the exam hall with. And towards the end of the session, I would tell you that there is so much in the market which keeps going on that after 2023 paper, right? People are telling that after 2023 paper, the eliminations are eliminated, right? That is what is one fanciful phrase that has come out, right? Now we will actually look into what is the logic or what is the psyche behind talking about something called as elimination techniques. Is elimination technique really eliminating something in the exam hall, or is it eliminating you, right? So these two perspectives, I somewhere believe that they are most misunderstood in the market. So we would try to address that particular aspect by looking at how are we going to do that by solving 2023 question paper, because you know that I was in the exam hall, I solved 2023 question paper not outside exam hall, inside the exam hall, right? So in that context, we would see that what kind of strategy we can imbibe if at all there is a surprising element in the question paper, right? And towards the end, we would discuss certain aspects about one particular program called high impact revision, which has been going on for last 2 years. And this is going to be a 4th batch in case if some of you, I would hope all of you, to get into that particular course. Okay. Now let's get into our business. Now when we look at this particular question, when they say, is prelims really tough? Right? Now my answer is, it is already a leaked question. It is yes. Yes, it is tough. But I would say, and I would also put a perspective saying, that some people say, sir, prelims is unpredictable, prelims is impossible, prelims is uncertain. Now for all of these phrases, for all of these connotations of prelims examination, I would say, it's a big no. Because as a person who has been clearing this examination for 6 times continuously, and I think I have all the eligibility to talk about this examination. For the reason I have seen a question paper of 2016, which happens to be my first attempt, and I have seen a question paper which is 2023 in the exam hall, right? So in that context, I would put forth all of my experience and let's devise some strategy here. Now when you look at, is prelims really tough? Yes. Now there are certain definite parameters which makes this examination little tough, and the major reason is it is your number game. When you look at your numbers, you know that 10 odd lakh people fill the application, and from there you would see roughly 7 lakh, right? And from there hardly 12,000 people will sit in the exam hall. And in this context, they don't do any black magic, my dear. Please be very clear. That Shudra Poojal em cheyaru. It's fundamentally some checklist, some tick boxes which they ensure that they are through to mains. The second reason why prelims appears really difficult is when you talk about the aspects of random nature of the examination. Now for an individual who is giving this examination once, twice, thrice, and for an individual who is stuck in this particular phase of examination, for you it appears to be very, very random, but I would say it is not random. You will definitely see a pattern in the examination which is being questioned. If I have to substantiate this particular point with respect to that, it is not random. You can go back and refer and check the previous year questions where you see that every year you have a question on Vijayanagara, every year you have a question on 5th Sikh schedule, every year you have a question on president, every year you have a question on judiciary, every year you have a question on local governance, every year you have a question on charter acts, every year you will definitely have a question on Buddhism or Jainism, or every year you will have a question which is related to Gupta as well as pre-Gupta and somewhere around the periods of Gupta. Now in that context, I can list out 50 topics in the examination hall, or when you observe this question paper, 50 topics are always present. Definitely you would see 50 topics are always present. For example, in geography you will definitely have a question on drainage system. If you look at 2015 question paper, there was a question on Godavari. If you look at 2016, there was a question on Brahmaputra. If you look at 2021, you would see that there was a question with respect to saline water lakes. If you look at 2023, there was a question on Jhelum river, Beas river. So in that context, you see that definitely there is a question on drainage system, there is a question on vegetation, there is a question on climatic systems, there is a question on climatology, especially in the context of solar insolations and the incoming radiations. The problem with most of us is that we don't set a pattern, we don't try to understand a pattern that is being put forth by the UPSC by looking at the question papers. So the second thing which boggles most of you in clearing prelims examination is it is random. The third thing that keeps you away from clearing this examination, although everybody wants to clear, is emotions, right? We are like, when we see the question paper, we are like, mummy, right? Gone case, फिर UPSC came up with surprise. Right, in 2020 there was a surprise with respect to number of questions on agriculture. In 2019 there was a surprise with respect to number of questions on medieval India. In 2021 there was a surprise with respect to number of questions on sports and statement based questions. In 2022 there was a surprise again with respect to change in the options they had made. In 2023, you know what happened, right? I don't need to again iterate what happened in 2023. So in that context, what happens is, UPSC would definitely want to check what is your emotional stability inside the exam hall. It definitely doesn't want an individual, it definitely doesn't want a candidate who is broken by just merely looking at the questions. Now just imagine, for the reason when you get into administration, when you become a civil servant, you are going to be on your toes and you have to be ready for any exigency. Because you definitely know, flood will never tell you, "Arey nen repu vastunanu, wait." It just comes off. Now when it is just coming off, you have to be on your toes, you need to have that emotional balance. Now in the exam hall, especially a section like prelims examination, will look into these aspects very much. Because when you look at the filtering stage of prelims examination, I would say it is a 3-layered approach. Because the first layer of elimination that it does is with respect to those individuals who are not emotionally stable, who have performance anxiety, who are anxious of what are they putting, who are not confident. They are eliminated here. And the second layer of elimination that happens in the context of prelims examination, although you are confident, although you are emotionally stable, you would see that conceptual clarity is what is going to play a picture here. That how clear are you with the concepts, because you would read about 5th schedule, fine. But when you read about 5th schedule, are you aware about that who is going to create it, who is going to manage it, what is the exceptions that are existing? In that context, again, we falter for the reason. We think studying 5th schedule, studying about 5th schedule is merely reading what is 5th schedule. No. We will have to understand, we will have to have a clear picture in the context of this. And the third layer of elimination that happens in the context of prelims examination is, a person who cannot take risk is eliminated. A person who cannot take risk is eliminated for the reason that there is a very, very wrong notion that goes on in the examination, where you see that people will have to have a limited attempt. Now limited attempt means, just let's look at some logical figures here. If you are going to attempt 50 questions saying that I know only 50 questions out of 100, when I have 50 questions, I definitely know that you are under pressure, you have a human error, and the maximum accuracy that you can get as a human in under prelims examination pressure is hardly 80%. Now attempting 50 questions, if I am having 80% accuracy, I am only getting 40 right and 10 wrong. When I am getting 40 right and 10 wrong, on an average, if I say that 80, 12, so 4, how much will I land up in? I will land up in somewhere around 72 to 74. Anyway, you are not clearing. Anyway, you are not clearing. And it is very, very definite that in none of the question papers, be it 2016, be it 2017, be it 2013, be it 2022, be it 2023, and take it for granted, be it in 2024, you would never know more than 50 questions direct. I would say 50 questions, if you are knowing 50 questions, it's a bonanza. If you are knowing 50 questions, that means your Saturn is on your head, rotating on a lesser speed, definitely. But if you're, because I will tell you my own personal experience, 2021, in spite of clearing 4 prelims before that, in 2021, when I got into the hall, after looking at the initial 5 minutes of the paper, I hardly knew 18 questions. I hardly knew 18 questions. Just imagine if I was like, "Mummy, I only know 18 questions and leave 18 test." And what is going to happen? You will have to maximize your attempt by what? Not by tukka, not by inky pinky ponky. It is fundamentally a calculated risk. And that is the third layer, which is going to eliminate. And finally, you know, when you enter here, how are you going to come out? If you have these boxes being ticked in the exam hall, samjho ho gaya tumhara. It is definitely going to be cleared when you talk about this. And those 12,000 people, out of those 12,000, 10% will be such that they would have done some yajnas and yagas, and right, their Saturn is rotating on a lesser speed, right, they would have put inky pinky ponky, they had their mother's blessings, father's blessings, grandparents' blessings, relatives' blessings, which will definitely not be there. It's a different issue, right? And they would have cleared. But 90% who would have cleared prelims will definitely have these 3 boxes ticked. And these 3 layers which have to be cleared in the exam hall is what is making the exam tough. Otherwise, as a subject examination, it is not tough. As a subject, it is only demanding you what? As a subject, it is only demanding you to know what you are supposed to know in a manner you are supposed to study. It is not about studying everything, my dear. It is about studying what is required, knowing what to be known, and Not only studying what is required, also studying what is required for the examination in the way you can attempt and apply in the exam hall. That is where we are going to have a lot of difficulty, because what happens, my dear, I'll tell you, in the normal as an aspirant life, when you see, what is going to happen is you would see you are surrounded by friends, you are surrounded by people, you are surrounded by mentors, you are surrounded by institutes, you are surrounded by test series, you are surrounded by books, you are surrounded by cheat codes, and you are surrounded by so-called elimination techniques. And when you have so many things which are surrounding, round up చేసి confuse చేస్తారు, right? So finally what will happen? Confusion లో ఎక్కువ కొట్టేస్తున్నారు. And what is happening in the context of confusion, my dear, you would have to understand that finally when you enter the exam hall, you are all confused, because you don't have clarity on what you are supposed to prepare, how you are supposed to prepare, when are you supposed to apply what you have prepared, and where are you supposed to apply what you have prepared. Now this is the reason why prelims is appearing tough. Otherwise, as such, as a subject, the examination is on a moderate level. If you are supposed to do what you are supposed to do, you will clear. Trust me. Right? Now, when I look at the second aspect of this, what kind of general mistakes that aspirants generally do? Because what happens is, you know what, the human life and the human as a species is very tricky, right? The problem is we commit mistakes, and the biggest problem is we don't analyze our mistakes. Even though you were sensible enough to analyze your mistakes, we don't accept our mistakes, because the ego, avuna, this is an exam, right? How can that defeat me, right? And you apply your ego even in the exam hall. And whom are you fighting with a question? Question is telling, come, you're like, yes, I'm there. And when you go, question is much tougher. When you say, hey, you can't cheat me, okay? And that's a problem. Now here, please be very clear, my dear. Whenever we are going to enter into the exam hall, we need to enter with an objective framework. And people might contradict my statement saying, sir, how will you enter with an objective framework in a subjective examination? That is where is your preparation going to lie. And we are all preparing for prelims examination not to select an option, but just to eliminate an option. Please remember that. Because this examination is not about selecting an option, my dear. This examination is not about selecting a candidate, it is about eliminating a candidate who is not fit for this examination. And in the same way, when the whole process of civil services is a process of elimination, why are you going to, or why are you trying to select an option in a process of elimination? That has to be very, very clear in this context. That has to be very, very clear. And what circus are we doing in the process of preparation is fundamentally minimizing the uncertainty that is existing in the examination. How are we going to minimize that uncertainty? By identifying what mistakes we make, and by reducing these mistakes. One major mistake that we do is when I look at the supply chain, I know that the supply chain will have 3 stages when I talk about prelims examination. The first supply chain is what is your preparation. In the context of preparation, one biggest mistake that you do is multiple sources. Multiple sources. Now you pick up one source, you read, and somebody next to you is reading something else. You pick up some other source, and somebody else is telling you, "Arey, this book is good," you pick up some other source. And finally, what is happening? You would see, at the end of the day, when you are having multiple sources, you are definitely not going to revise all of them. That is what is going to be a biggest blunder. And now what is going to be your scenario when you talk about your mindset in the exam hall? When I prepare multiple sources, what do I see is I partially know about something, but I definitely do not know that whether this particular point is right or wrong. Now in that context, what you say, sir, I am able to eliminate 2 options, sir, but I am left with 2 more options, sir, and I am always choosing the wrong option, sir. Bad luck, sir. I would say, no, sir. That is what is the problem. That is what is the biggest problem we have, because we have multiple sources. When we have multiple sources, we are not revising. When we are not revising, we don't have clarity. When we don't have clarity, from where are we going to choose the right option among the two? Very, very big problem. The second problem that we do in the context of preparation is not only with respect to multiple sources, it is inconsistency. Inconsistency. Now I am taking this session, right? I am very definite that you would be motivated, and you will be, because it will appear like check the India, I am the Shah Rukh Khan, you are those girls who are running with the hockey sticks. I would say, yes, 70 minutes. And I would say, for this next 4 months, you are going to slog. Now you are like, yes, Chadu, Chappadu, and you will not even get down the steps, you will jump from the building. Pada mama, time waste avutundi, let's run. Sir, antaga cheppadu, right? Let's move. And your adrenaline would be rushing, I know. Now finally what will happen? Today, you are like, right? You would burn your midnight oil and you are not going to sleep, right? Slowly after 2 days. Deala. Right? Why? Inconsistency. Now if you understand this, why is this inconsistency? Again because of this. Because you have picked up polity, you have picked up geography, you have picked up environment, and you are reading it, prashantanga chadutunnaru. And in the process, somebody will come and do kirkiri. What that fellow will do? Mama, idi baaledanta. Deen nunchi questions ravatledanta. You immediately ask him, Anna, ekkadi nunchi vastunnai? Because you fundamentally have to understand that there is no definite source for UPSC examination. It's only that we do a post-mortem analysis, right? Just because agriculture questions were asked more in 2020, I will study agriculture engineering book in 2021. Pointless. Pointless. What do I need to do? That consistency would come only with limited sources. Consistency would only come with limited sources. And the third major problem that we have when we are preparing is the problem of revision. And some of the people will not even know what do you actually mean by revision. And when you actually think about, sir, what should be the revision, how should I revise, when should I revise, in what format should I revise, if you observe those, you would see that revision is the most important aspect of the stage of the preparation. You might read less, you might read limited sources, but you will definitely have to revise what you have read, because when you look at the memory curve of any human being, it has a deteriorating trends. It has a deteriorating trends, and even after clearing 6 times the prelims examination, if I don't revise and after 20 days, if you ask me a concept, I might not be able to recollect. For the reason it is a human tendency. It is a human tendency. And what is that parameter that is going to push me to contradict or to counter this challenge is repeated revisions. Repeated revisions. And in this context again, most of you will see, sir, how much of a time it is taking for me to read it for the first time, same time is with respect to the second time reading, the third time reading, then fourth time reading. Then if it is taking the same time, then you are not revising. The simplest understanding of revision is what? I would read those things which are difficult to remember first. Now when I look at this, I would read those things which are difficult to remember. What would be my first priority? The facts. Facts are going to be my first priority. Now in that context, I will have to revise facts on a daily basis or a weekly basis, at least on a fortnight basis. The second thing that I am going to look into when I talk about remembering something is some confusing concepts. Some confusing concepts. Now on the nick of the moment when I ask you something about, say, 73rd, 74th Constitutional Amendment, right? And if I ask you, what is Article 243D, right? Or what is MPC, what that is Metropolitan Planning Committee, and what is DPC, District Planning Committee, and what is the fundamental difference? That is a point where I have confusion. I might tell you, you might tell me the articles are Article 243, ZD, ZD are belonging to these two organizations, both are constitutional bodies, fine. But immediately when I counter saying what is the difference between both, you're confused. You're confused. Now when I ask you, what is the concept of near and rear that you apply when you talk about the international economics? And if I say, should the rear be increasing for me to look into the international competitiveness of a trade? I don't know. In this context, you know what is rear, you know what is near, you know what do you understand by international competitiveness or trade competitiveness, but the problem is, what is its relation? I'm not clear. And the third thing that you always have to remember is, you keep repeatedly making mistakes. Without you knowing, some aspect of a particular concept would have been written in your head. And when you look at a question on that particular topic, you mark it. But what is the problem is, whenever you see a question on the same topic, you are always marking it wrong. Why? The inherent or the fundamental understanding of the concept in your head itself is wrong. Now in that context, what you are supposed to do, my dear? In that context, what you are supposed to do? I will have to identify that concept, I will have to rewrite what I have understood. And then I will avoid these repeated mistakes in this context. Are you understanding this, right? So you see that these are some of the major problems, major mistakes that we do in the context of the stage of the preparation. The second aspect that we see where we generally find a mistake is with respect to second aspect that I always see here is practice. Practice. Now when I look at practice, what is the problem that I am going to face in practicing is, you know that there are multiple institutes which are existing, right? You can name some hundreds and thousands of them existing. And you definitely know that everybody comes up with a test series. And everybody would want to test your grounds in this test series. Now here what is going to happen, I don't know, for some reason there is a wrong notion, I don't know, I would not even tell it as wrong notion, at least in my personal opinion that is a wrong notion. That people say that solve 100 tests, solve 150 tests, you will clear this examination. That is what is one wrong notion which has been going on as per my understanding. Now my simplest debate that I would put forth is, just imagine if I am solving 100 tests, and when I am solving 100 tests, what is going to happen is I am going to have, say, 100 questions for 100 tests. 100 questions means how much? 10,000 questions. Now when I am going to have 10,000 questions, on an average, if I see that at least for every 2 questions I have one concept being learned, I would study 5,000 concepts. Fine. This is more of a reverse engineering process. But what rather I would see, you will have to understand what is the psyche behind any institute coming up with a test series. When you look at any of the institute, for suppose if you look at this particular institute, what is the psyche behind them coming up with a test series? Is they are going to cover all of your basics, all of your current affairs which are important for this year. Now that means, for suppose if I am solving, say, 17 tests, I think part of HR will have roughly around 17 tests. Now when you look at this 17 tests, what do I see in this context of 17 tests from test 1 till test 17? I would definitely be confident enough that I would have revised all of my basic concepts. That means what? Following one particular cycle is what is very important. Rather than picking up multiple, rather than going for variety, I would say, pick up one, finish it completely. Finish it completely. Now, what is the reason that you are going to finish it completely? Is when I finish it completely, I definitely know that all of the aspects are touched. All of the aspects are touched. Now when all of the aspects are touched, in preparation you are seeing, in revision, in practice, you are again testing your grounds with respect to your knowledge, whatever you have acquired. This is one thing which we have been missing. And the second part that you keep missing in the context of practice, you write a test, and when you write a test, what do? Whenever you are writing a test, you take multiple breaks in middle. Right? Avuna kada? ఏదో అదేదో కురుక్షేత్ర యుద్ధం లాగా చేస్తుంటారా ఏదో, రైట్? సూర్యుడు అస్తమిస్తగానే బ్రేక్, విరామం, మళ్ళీ నెక్స్ట్ డే, రైట్? Now in that context, you can't solve a test like that, my dear. You can't say after every 15 minutes I will sip chai and then I will give next 15 questions. No. When you are solving a particular test series, what should be your understanding in the context of solving a particular test series? I should be such that I would finish the test within 2 hours. Then once I finish the test, what most of you do is, you're exhausted. More than exhausted, you're like depressed. Why? Most of you will see some negative scores. Right? Now in that context, one simple thing that I will tell you, don't bother about the marks in your practice test. Don't bother about the marks in your practice test, don't bother about the rank that you're getting in practice test. But what you should be more bothered and what you should be more worried is, how are you going to analyze this particular test? And you please remember, analysis of a particular test does not mean simply reading the answers which have been given for that particular test. What you are supposed to understand is, analysis of a particular test means you would have to see the different boxes have to be looked into. One is, what are the weak areas that are existing? Because definitely nobody is perfect. If you ask me also, I would have certain weak areas in certain subjects. Because I definitely know that I don't need 200 out of 200 to qualify this examination. I just need 100. And I think for that only we are all here. Right? Now you see, identify your weak areas. Now when you identify your weak areas when you are solving a particular test, you can cover the weak areas either by reading the solutions, one, or not only by reading the solutions, you can go back to refer your basic books. One way. The second thing that you are going to see in this context is, how is your guessing actually working? Now please keep this on a hold. I would talk about this guessing towards the end of this particular session. Now guessing doesn't mean I toss a coin. Guessing doesn't mean I roll a die. If 1 comes option A, if 2 comes option B, if 3 comes option C, if 4 comes option D, if 5 comes or 6 comes, none of the above. I leave the equation, nothing like that. Now in that context, I can't go for rolling a die or tossing a coin when I talk about guessing. Now guessing, we'll just look at this particular perspective little later towards the end of this session. The third aspect that you are supposed to definitely look into this is, which is your strong subject and which is your weak subject. Now that was with respect to topical analysis, this is with respect to subject analysis. I don't want you to be strong in all 6 subjects. That's a myth. And we are not here to be a perfectionist at any cost. Because perfectionist attitude is going to eat away a lot of time, lot of emotions, lot of everything, lot of work to a larger extent. And finally you will end up getting nothing. Now in this examination, identify which subjects you are strong, which subjects you are weak. Now in that context, our ambition is not making the weak subject strong. Our ambition should be making the strong subject or maintaining the strength in that particular subject. And when I look at the weak subject, I will only look at making the weak subject into an average subject. What do you mean by making it into an average subject? If I have 15 questions per se on a topic of economy, I would see that if I am able to solve 6 or 7, I am happy. Because I definitely know in subjects like polity, in subjects like geography, in subjects like environment, or in subjects like S&T, whatever is your comfort zone, or in subjects like history, medieval, modern, wherever, you should definitely know that in other areas I am going to cover. This is just very similar to a game of cricket. Right? We have to be like Sachin Tendulkar. We can't be like Surya Kumar Yadav. Surya Kumar Yadav's attitude will come into the picture when we are going to see certain aspects of it. When I am going to say calculated risk, right? Rather, Surya Kumar Yadav is not taking a calculated risk. In fact, the emerging one is who? Rinku Singh. Your play should be like Rinku Singh. Right? When it comes to certain aspects, your play should be like Sachin Tendulkar, not hitting every ball out of the fence. Some balls have to be left. And that business is in the average subjects. That business is in the average subjects. When we have bunch of 6 subjects, 3 can be strong, 3 can be average. ठीक है चलेगा. Because at the end of the day, we only need average score or strong score or good score. Average score. What is our average score? 100. 100? Yes. What is the magic figure? 100. Bumper majority తో గెలుస్తుంది. అవునా? ఇప్పుడు మనమంతా ఏ పరిస్థితుల్లో ఉన్నాం? డిపాజిట్లు కూడా దక్కట్లేదు మనకి. Right? Election. Alright. So we will have to understand that dimension. And the third biggest blunder that we make in practice is This is a gold mine. PYQs are gold mine. Inkedanna, diamond, whatever valuable material is present on this earth, you can compare them with PYQs of UPSC. For the reason that PYQs of UPSC will definitely give you the mindset of UPSC. What is the mindset of UPSC and what areas to be focused, what areas to be left, what areas to what depth should I read? Because what happens is in certain aspects, in certain subjects like geography, we don't understand some things. And in subjects like geography, when we don't understand something, when we are conceptually weak, we feel like leaving the subject. But UPSC says, Arey Babu, you don't need to know everything, you don't need to create your own earth. You just need some basics. You just need some basics. And when you look at those basics, when you look at what topics to be emphasized, when you look at what is the depth of the topic that I am going to read, this fellow is going to indicate. And your PYQs are a perfect signboard towards what should be your preparation for next 4 months. Trust me. Trust me. Now, by now you would have understood that I have PYQs on my fingertips. Why? For the reason that I definitely know that at least 20 to 25 questions I can solve on the basis of PYQs of last 10 years. Now 20 to 25 questions if I am able to solve on the basis of PYQs. What is going to happen, my dear? Don't you think 20-25 questions are already leaked by UPSC through PYQs? Yes, yes. I'm telling you, it is all purely on the basis of experience. I'm telling you this. PYQs are very strong. My PYQs are on fingertips. Why? Why should I have PYQs on my fingertips? Because the statement in one particular question can turn into a question next year. Question next year, for example, you remember Gucci in 2022, mushroom? Yes, you remember that? There was a question on Gucci. इस साल mushrooms के ऊपर question पूछा था, and in that you go back and refer. Look at the second statement in that particular question. You have a relation with the question of Gucci. Are you understanding this? Are you understanding this? Now when you look at, for suppose say, last year in 2022 there was one question on 6th schedule, right? The option in 2019 question has become a question in 2022. That is the speciality, that is the importance of PYQs that we are supposed to understand, where we are lacking to understand. Now in this context, people will say, sir, I am going to read PYQs of last 30 years, last 40 years, last 20 years, not needed. Initially focused from 2011 till 2023, finish the set, because you have 13 years almost. When you have 13 years, it is like 1300 questions, 1300 into 4 statements, it is like how much? 5200 statements. Now when you have 5200 statements, around 5000 statements, 5000 statements will definitely indicate to you roughly around 2000 concepts. I saw your basics are very clear from this. Your basics are very clear from this. Now if you still have time, if you still have energies, if you still have mood, and if you still have that urge at any cost I want to clear this examination, then you can move into other examinations of UPSC like CDS, like CAPF. Because of what? Again, it is not that there are some other exams, but the only focus is a common conducting body is looking at. That is CAPF and that is CDS. Is conducted by whom? UPSC. Are you understanding this? Right? So you see, this has to be, and this is what is one thing which has been neglected for a while. For a while. The next thing that you need to look into is the third aspect or third part in the supply chain that we generally refer is with respect to the application. I told you initially it was prep, practice, and what is the final stage? Application. Application of whatever you have learned here. Application of whatever you have learned here. And what is that common mistake that we do in application? Application is the way you attempt your paper. The way you attempt your paper. And with my experience and with my experience of at least making 250 students clear prelims examination from last 3 years, that I can definitely tell you, you would find a commonality in the understanding in the way you attempt a paper. When you look at the commonality, what happens is you get the paper, 9:30 your exam starts, and what happens is you open the paper And what do? You don't skim through the paper, and immediately what do? You start answering from question number 1. And when you start answering from question number 1, what happens is you do not know what is in the other part of the or other side of the question paper. You're solving from question number 1, you're not getting it. Question number 2, not getting it. Question number 3, not getting it. Question number 4, not getting it. Question number 5, you're forced to attempt it. Why are you being forced to attempt it? It is just like a batsman in a maiden over. What is the plight or what is the psyche of a batsman in a maiden over? First ball, Yorker. Second ball, Beamer. Third ball, fourth ball, fifth ball, sixth ball, he is forced to hit it because he has eaten away 5 balls. Now, in the similar manner, you would be under pressure to attempt a question after leaving 4 questions or 5 questions. That is one mistake that we make. And finally, what happens is when you move towards 50th question, here you are like, it is injustice. UPSC. ఇది ఏమన్నా బాగుందా? రైట్, నేను అంత ప్రిపేర్ అయ్యాను. ఐ రెడ్ సో మెనీ సోర్సెస్. నన్ను ఏడిపిస్తున్నా. And you literally take out your tissue paper and wipe everything. Have some water. You look at the examiner. Examiner is talking to one more invigilator there. Right? He is busy. Right? Chal raha hai wo. Right? All others around. They were looking down. They are solving as if they know everything. Summa nothing. Overaction. Right? Or ek cheez chalta hai. I'll tell you, I still remember my first attempt when I was giving. My center was UPSC board. Right? And I had one person who was diagonal to me. And that person, first attempt, appude budi adugadu. Right? Right, sir, mere and sir, budi adugalendi sir. Right? Then we started, I was chumma writing. That person, after solving every question, he was looking at me and was doing, yes. I was like, how did he come to know that I was not getting this question? First. Second, I don't know him. Neither we fought for something. Right? Neither we were related in our past birth. Nothing. He was looking at me. Like, Anna, em chestunnava Anna nu? All these will come into the picture. All these will come into the picture, and please understand, my dear, after 50th question, you are like, anyway nothing is going to happen. If I attempt, if I think, if I don't think, if I analyze, if I don't analyze, if I eliminate, if I don't eliminate, one thing is very definite, I am going to be eliminated from the exam. Wo to pakka. And what do? You start playing Rangoli in the question paper. But you will underline every word as if you are understanding, and you will mark something. Right? In your name, whatever letters are there, if ABC are there, if ABCD are there, definitely you will take a sequence and mark. Right? And some person will say, sir, I will mark A for first question, B for second question, C for third question, fourth for D question. Sir, pattern is good, sir. Then I will again mark C, B, A, sir. Beautiful pattern, sir. All this you will start doing. Rangoli chal raha hai. Please be very clear, my dear, that one simplest approach that I always tell you, and I always been telling, take one question at a time. Taking one question at a time out of 100 questions is very, very important for me. For the reason I definitely know that I have 100 opportunities in the test paper to qualify. I have 100 opportunities in the question paper to qualify. And I definitely know that I can utilize 70 opportunities out of 100 opportunities. If I utilize 70 opportunities out of 100, I'm through to the mains. And what is going to happen? I will take first question I don't know, second question I don't know, third question I don't know. I will tell you my experience in 2021. The first 11 questions I didn't even know one question of. Look at the condition. You are writing a prelims for the 5th time and you don't know the initial 11 questions. Kya chal raha ho gaya? By the time I had already given multiple interviews. And what is going on in your head? It is like, give it up, give it up, give it up. But you always have to remember that the greatness of a warrior will not lie in turning away from the battlefield, and the greatness of the warrior will always lie in fighting it back. And you will be declared as a warrior only if you have your wounds and cuts being present on your battlefield. And this also is same thing. One question, theek hai, second, theek hai, third, theek hai, 24, theek hai, 25, theek hai, yes. Whatever it is, I will solve. I will solve, I will solve, I will solve. And this attitude of I will solve should go on till which question? 100th question. 100th question. Till I take this attitude, 100th question, ठीक है यार, first round हो गया, अभी मेरे को I have second round. I will have still confidence. Then first question, second question, third question, fourth question. That should be your attitude. And if you're true to this, your first layer of elimination you're already through, that is your emotional aspect. That's your emotional aspect. And what should we do? In general, there is a way of attempting a question paper. Remember that. Now, what should be my way of attempting question paper? This is what I generally follow, right? You will have to devise your own mechanism. And how will you devise your own mechanism? You will devise your own mechanism by necessary practice. What do I do is, for the initial 5 minutes of the exam, I would just go through all the 100 questions. That means I am just skimming through all the 100 questions. When I am skimming through all the 100 questions in the initial 5 minutes, what am I doing? I am just looking at the themes of those questions. Yes, okay, finish. Then after 5 minutes, I am going to come back to question number 1 and I am going to ensure that I finish in 75 to 80 minutes. In 75 to 80 minutes, I finish all the 100 questions. Now, in this all the 100 questions, what am I doing? I know that out of these 100 questions, there are questions with one-word answers. There are questions with single statement answers. You would have seen these patterns if you know. There are questions with multiple statements. And in this multiple statements also, you know that if you are able to eliminate one statement, you would arrive at the answer. If you are able to eliminate 2 statements, you are arriving at the answer. If you are able to eliminate 3 statements, still you are not arriving at the answer. There are different probabilities that would definitely exist when I have multiple statement questions. And fourth type that I would always see is very, very random question. For example, in 2021, there was one question that bisphenol A. Everybody was reading about plastics, everybody was reading about release of bisphenol A because of the great garbage patch of plastic in Northern Pacific. But nobody discussed, nobody thought about that UPSC would come up with a question talking about what is the product that is derived from bisphenol A. That is your polycarbonate. That is your polycarbonate which has been derived there. Now in that context, what happens is there are some questions which are random. Now here, you definitely know that you cannot afford to spend more time here. You cannot afford to spend more time here because you know it, you mark it, if you don't know it, you don't. That is a way. And the time that is going to be consumed when you solve a particular question is here. And anyway, this is very random, so I don't need to spend much time. Now, when I am looking at the multiple statement questions, that is where I am going to have some time being consumed. And what is going to happen? That I am going to manage the 75-80 minutes for 100 questions. Then by the time I know that I would have finished how much, my dear? 1.5 hours. 90 minutes I would have finished approximately. Now when I finish 90 minutes approximately, when I am solving these 100 questions, in these questions I would have eliminated those statements which I am supposed to. I would have marked those questions which I know. I would have marked those questions which I do not know, which I should not attempt. I have done all my basic exercise. When I have done all my basic exercise, what is to be observed in this context is, I will have to start marking now. And when I look at marking, I definitely know with the size of the bubble with respect to your OMR, it would take around 6 seconds for you to mark one particular OMR bubble. Now it is going to take 6 seconds for you to mark a OMR bubble. That means if I am going to attempt 80 questions, how many seconds it is going to take? It is going to take roughly 8 minutes to me. Ante kada, CSAT. Right? The next devil is there. Right? So we see that 8 minutes to 10 minutes. Now that means I would have finished 100 minutes, I am still left with 20 minutes. Now in this 20 minutes, I would look at the question paper again. Now that means, how many rounds I would have done here? 4. 5 minutes to skim, 90, 80 minutes to look into, 10 minutes to mark, then again I am going to look into the question. Now when I am doing it multiple times, beauty of UPSC is UPSC gives you some clues in the question paper. UPSC is like, please, ఇది ఒక్కటి చూడు ఇదిగో ఇక్కడ ఉంది ఆప్షన్. UPSC is like that. And what most of you do? No, నేను చూడను. Why? నేను నీ మీద అలిగాను. No, Anni, you gave all the tough questions, now you are telling, look at, no, I will not. I will not look into it. Are you understanding this? Right? This is a way that you attempt your question paper such that this minimizes for me to make one very, very big devil here is silly mistakes. Now, how many of you have given your attempt before already? Once. I will not ask how many times, don't worry. And I know, a track record, right? I know. How many of you have given attempt already? Experienced the exam already? Raise. See, don't worry, I can relate with it. Right? I can understand. Now, you have given it multiple times. Okay, take care. You have given it once. Satisfaction goes on. Now, after giving it, you come out, and one definite feeling is, I should not have answered that question like this. Arre, I know this, but I put it wrong. Oh, and you're like, Gaya, gone. And what happens is, slowly in the lunch till you have time till 2:30, 11:30, 2:30. Biggest problem, UPSC should have given only 1 hour. Because you will not have time to look into the question. It gave how many? 3 hours. You have 3 hours there. You're looking into the question paper. ఒక్కొక్కటి తవ్వకాల్లో బయట పడ్డట్టు పడుతున్నాయి. అరే this question, this question, this question, this question, this question, and finally what do you do? Some people who are very radical, they tear the question. I know. And some people who are very radical, right? You will not get anything to eat. In center you buy samosa to keep on that particular paper and eat. కొంతమంది సాస్ కూడా పోసుకొని. Why? Silly mistakes. Silly mistake can cost you a year, my friend. It's a misnomer that silly mistake is not actually very silly for our lives. It is not actually very silly for our attempt. It is not actually very silly for our selection in civil services. Because what is going to happen is, if I see 3 silly mistakes, and here most of you are perplexed, sir, what is a silly mistake? The simplest definition of a silly mistake that I would say when I am attempting this exam in the exam hall is very simple. That if I am marking the question wrong in the exam hall and I am able to mark it right outside the exam hall, I call it as a silly mistake. Because in exam hall, under pressure condition, you had miscalculation, you had a misjudgment of the option and you marked it wrong. Immediately after you came out, you were able to realize that this is the correct answer, not the one which you marked. That's a silly mistake. 3 silly mistakes is tolerable for the reason we are all human beings. But when it goes for 4, 5, 6, 7, you're out of the race. For the reason that you would see, 3 questions is what is the difference between a person who is qualifying this exam and who is not qualifying this exam. Majorly. And one common thing that you keep hearing, no, sir, border మీద ఉన్నాను, అటన్నా పడచ్చు సార్, ఇటన్నా పడచ్చు. And if somebody asks you, ఎటు పడతావో చెప్పురా, తెలియదు సార్. Right? Now in that context, what do you have to understand? 3 questions means what? 3 into 2, 6. Right? 6 are going, along with the negatives, 2 by 3 into 3, that is 2, in total 8 marks. That means the cutoff, most of your normal distribution curve, when you look at the aspirants, it is between this 8 marks. And for us, these 3 questions are extremely important. Right? Now, how to minimize these silly mistakes? If you finalize what is your way of attempting this question paper, you can definitely minimize the mistakes. Unless and until I finalize upon the way I am going to attempt, unless and until I am going to look into it, I cannot minimize my silly mistakes. Because when I keep seeing multiple questions multiple times, I can reduce it. I can reduce it, right? So these are the common mistakes that we keep making when it comes to this examination. Hope those who have already given, you are falling in this ambit somewhere. Yes? Avana? You are able to relate? Now, what should be the thing that we are supposed to do, sir? The checklist. Now when you look at checklist, what you are supposed to do, first thing, is first you are going to identify priority areas. First you are going to identify priority areas, right? You will have this priority areas being present, right? Now sir, how to identify these priority areas? Now how will you identify these priority areas is very simple, that you will go back and refer to question papers and you will get and you will understand. Because after today's session you will be able to have a decent orientation about this examination, and you will see that the priority areas are repeated. And if you still want to make, if you want me to make the business very easy, there is already a 50 topic priority list which is present in one of the Telegram groups. It is mastering answer. This is what is the Telegram ID. In this Telegram ID, you would see that there is already 50 topics which are high priority list. High priority list, in that I have shortlisted what are the repeated themes in the last 10 years. You can refer to that particular list, because now I definitely know that you don't have time. You people are very busy because now we are supposed to prepare. You should be really busy with respect to what you are learning, how you are learning, when are you learning, how are you applying, everything you are supposed to be indulged in. So the first checklist is my priority areas. And when I pick up these priority areas, what should I think about this? Is I need to finish these priority areas on war footing basis, in the sense that I am going to restrict my sources to basic books. Basic books, whatever you are reading, I am not going to give you a list, for the reason that some people would contradict me. Sir, I read X book, but why are you telling me Y book? Right? So it's up to you. Some standard sources, and on that basis of standard sources, finish this. Finish this priority areas first. The second checklist is pick up some test series. Now sir, should I write the test series by sitting in the exam hall? Or can I write it by sleeping on the bed? Or can I write it by sitting in the study hall by looking all around, whether people are looking at me, whether I am studying or not? Now my simple suggestion would be, I would suggest you to go and simulate your test, because I think you know that Asireddy IAS Study Circle also has this free test series which is conducted towards the last, that is April and May. Now I think roughly around 5 sectional tests are there and 3 full length tests along with CSAT. Now you can test those grounds for the reason of what? That you can test those grounds there, why? That you can come, sit in the exam hall, sit among the crowd, observe your thought process and apply. So that can be done, right? So test series. Now the third thing that you are supposed to look into with respect to the checklist of this is MCQ solving techniques, right? Because ironically, many people who were sitting outside the exam hall, as well as some people who were there in the exam hall, they were telling, sir, there was no technique which is used here, it is all random, we will have to study everything. We will have to start by hatting encyclopedias and we will have to write this exam. I would say pointless. And they said, sir, elimination techniques are eliminated, sir. They are not there, sir. You are telling us to eliminate, sir, we are eliminated, sir. Kya kare, sir? The fundamental thing that you have to understand here, elimination techniques are a different way of putting what is your common sense and how are you applying your common sense in a format of a technique. And the problem with most of the aspirants is what? That you try to learn elimination technique as a technique. You will just only know the technique, but you do not know what is the logic behind the technique. When you do not know what is the logic behind the technique, how are you going to apply the technique? Yes. Now here, UPSC will not say that I am going to set the question paper by ensuring that elimination techniques are going to be applied. No. In any MCQ solving questions, in any MCQ solving question paper, you would see that the psyche of the examiner is, you should definitely remember that some people have to qualify this exam. Now when that, some people are supposed to qualify this examination, they would definitely want the people with common sense should qualify this exam. Because there is a very, very famous saying, common sense is not so common. That is what is said. Now, in the UPSC parlance, that common sense or the manifestation or the testimonial to that common sense is represented as an elimination. They will say, when you see extreme words, eliminate. Everything, only, all. Now, why will you eliminate an extreme thing? What is the logic? Then you definitely know that in a perfect creation like this, it itself has some imperfections. And you definitely know that nothing can be extreme in this world. Don't you think so? Yes. And everything will have some exceptions. Now that is what is the logic. Why do we eliminate extreme statements? And they will say, if you have a number, usko identify karo, danni bhutadhantam chusi, eliminate. Achha. Now what is the logic? I will show you those. What is the logic behind eliminating a number there? The logic is, when it is very, very specific. For example, when you look at 2023 question paper, there is one question with respect to Indian exports. It said 3.2%. Why 3.2? It would have been 3.4. It would have been 3.3. If UPSC really wanted to check you on numbers, it would have definitely given you 3.24, something like that. And if it wanted you to understand that no, this is the right statement, it would have. Now tell me one thing, 3.2% and around 3, is there any difference? No difference. No difference, because when you look at some aspects like this, it's very, very broad. And what is the paper are we writing, my dear? General studies or specific studies? General studies. And they will say, in constitution, whenever you see the word mentioned, whenever you see the word defined, whenever it is defined in constitution, eliminate. Why? What is the logic? Already we have 300 plus articles. Already our constitution is elephantine, that is one of the characteristic features of the constitution. And just imagine if you start defining every term of constitution. Will you have Lakshmikant? Lakshmikant part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, part 5, part 6, part 10. And you can't make the law of the land to be so voluminous in nature. That is the reason why they say whenever they mention defined, eliminate. That means every technique that is used to eliminate a statement has a logic behind it. And the problem with what you learn, the problem with the people what they say and the people who say eliminations are eliminated, the problem is they don't know what is the logic behind this thing. And elimination is purely common sense. I think it's making sense? And I can show you 20 odd such commonsensical techniques to be applied in the examination. I will show you. And I will show you at least 12 questions in the 2023 question paper where you can apply this common sense. I think that out towards the end of the question paper. Right? So this is one definite checklist which you have to put into the picture with respect to the techniques. The third or the fourth aspect that you are supposed to look into the checklist of this, what you are doing is notes. Now if I do a sample size, at least 80% of you will not have notes. Now if you have your notes also, you will say, sir, this is what is my class notes. Now when it is your class notes, how bulky is this? For every subject you put around 200, 250 pages of notes. Now when it is 250 pages of notes into 6, it is 1500 pages of notes. If it is 1500 pages of notes, how are you going to revise? One simplest thing, that definite checklist by the end of April or by mid of April that you are supposed to have is 300 pages notes for all of the subjects. That means your history, polity, economy, geography, environment, everything to be present in 300 pages notes. What is the logic behind? Now we are not preparing for May 26th. We are categorically preparing for May 23rd, May 24th, May 25th, because these three are the days which can make your exam, which can break your exam. Why? Because what happens is, just imagine if I am having 1500 pages of notes, I am putting it in front of me. And I sit down to revise on 23rd morning, I open these 1500 page notes. You are tensed. You are reading, you are pushing it, how much ever you can. Can you read 500 pages per day? Then you should be chitti the robe. हो सकता है, impossible man. 500 pages per day is like nightmare. Nightmare. You read 20 pages per hour per day, 12 hours, 240 pages, half of it. Now when I have 300 pages notes which is consolidated, my business is very clear. What is my business? I am going to revise this 300 pages notes towards the end. What all these 300 pages notes should have? This 300 pages notes should have some important aspects of PYQs, some important aspects of the subjects, some detailed notes of the priority list, the points which I have picked up from the solutions of the test series. When I have this 300 pages notes, my business is clear. Now, most of you will be in a doubt, sir, you are speaking so much about all of this, why are you not discussing about current affairs? Now, you please be very clear that current affairs are not asked as it is. And be very clear, in current affairs, nothing is so current in current affairs, please. Israel-Palestine issue, आज चल रहा है क्या? कब से चल रहा है? 1940 से चल रहा है. Is it current affairs? Is it current in current affairs? Nothing is current in current affairs. It is a development of the issue which keeps happening. And UPSC is very clear with respect to this, with respect to the development of the issue. You just need to identify the issue, you need to read the static part of that. The static extrapolated from the current affairs. The static related to current affairs. Now that is what is your current affairs preparation, my dear. And there is one way of doing it in a reverse engineering process, that is through this. Or either you read your magazines, whatever, but you definitely have to have some important snippets being picked up from those and added to this 300 pages notes. Now if it is 300 pages notes, don't you think if I revise 100 pages every day, I am more peaceful, I am more happy, prashantata untada? Avuna kada? Yes, I am more peaceful, and the stability of the thought and the stability of these 3 days is extremely important for you to perform well on 26th. And we should never fail to understand this concept here, my dear. That is what is I keep reiterating to all of those people who have already cleared to, or who are going to clear, who are struggling to clear, because I see a sample size where so many people come to me, sir, I have given 3 attempts, not cleared, I have given 4 attempts, not cleared, I have given 5 attempts, not cleared, this is my last attempt, sir, how am I going to do about prelims? The simplest key is whatever I told you, I will tell them also. And the key is what? 300 pages notes which is having all of this information, and it is good to do. This is what is a definite checklist that has to be ensured when you are writing your prelims on May 26th. Postpone hotada? Hotada? No rumors about postponement of UPSC prelims? That will never happen. Either you postpone your attempts, examination will never be postponed. Oh, to pakka. 26th at any cost, 9:30, you will have the question paper in your hand. At any cost, within 2 weeks, you will have the result. At any cost, on the evening of the result, 2 categories. Either you have pen in your hand to practice means, or either you have tears in your eyes. Yes, I heartfully want all of you to clear. Definitely. I heartfully want all of you to clear, because, and I am believing that all of you will clear. నేను మిమ్మల్ని నమ్ముతున్నాను, మీరు నమ్ముతున్నారా? Yes or no? Confidence बहुत बड़ी important चीज है यार इसमें. Unless and until I believe myself, I am not going to do all of this. Why most of you are demotivated every day, every morning you get up, sir, same process, same process, same process. The reason is you don't have confidence on what you are doing. And one common mistake most of you do is you will mark one statement, and towards the end of that, when you are marking in OMR, you will change the option. Yes. And why do you think this happens? Because you don't believe in what you are studying, you don't believe in what is the knowledge base, and you don't believe in the way you have answered the question. And 99% of the times, with my experience, I am telling you, the answer is the one which you attempt at the first go or the first instance. Human brain is devised in such a way. Trust me. Right? Now, let's move to the next part of this. At last 15-20 minutes I would end this, don't worry. Mission 2024. Right? Yes. अब आ रहा है ना check the India का feeling. Sir, Mission 2024, UPSC. That should be the spirit. Now you should fill yourself with energy such that, right, when I ask you how many of you are going to attempt Prelims 2024, you should jump on your chairs and sit down. That should be your energy. వీలైతే అలా వెళ్ళి నీ తల రూఫ్కి తగలాలి. That should be your energy. Why? I have to have this energy for next 4 months. I have to have this confidence for next 4 months. I have to have this belief for next 4 months. I will have to have this consistency and motivation for next 4 months. Star maina, make it or break it. And remember one thing, 4 months for 40 years of your life. Yes. This is what is the slogan for Mission 2024. 4 months. For what? 40 years of your life. Batukunte. Yes or no? 4 months, let's work hard. 4 months, 4 mahina can't we? We can. Because if you calculate all of the time that you have spent on sleeping, it will definitely be more. For some it is half year you will be sleeping only. If you wake them at 10, they are like, tellaripoyinda. So early morning, 10 o'clock, right? Now when you look at this, the timeline that I would give you. Now I am considering that January is over. Right? Or take care for your satisfaction. Say 26th. January 26th. ఈ రోజు శుభారంభం. వెళ్ళి ఒకసారి కొబ్బరికాయ అలా. Right? Now when you look at this 26th, from this, my target is going to be till Feb 26th. The first slot, in this my basics have to be very clear. That means whatever basic books you are reading, finish their reading as quick as possible. And before you read any subject's basics, please refer PYQs. Please refer PYQs before you refer any subject. And once you refer PYQs before you refer any subject, your basics are clear. The second thing that you are supposed to do is, if you want to pick up some test series, you can pick up some test series. Right? Now it can be such that you can pick up some test series, solve them in your room, and you can attempt one test series in the exam hall. In the exam hall in the sense, going to the center and writing. That can be one approach. That can be one approach. In this test series, when I am completing this test series, what I am going to do, again I am going to reinforce my basics in the full cycle of this test series. So that is my second layer of revision. And parallelly what is happening, I am doing my PYQs. Always spend 1 hour towards the end of the day on solving PYQs on whatever subject you studied. Now in this, what am I getting, my dear? In this I definitely know that from here all of this I will start making my notes, because my preparation is for 23rd, 24th and 25th, not for 26th. Because if 23, 24, 25 are good, my 26th is bumper, I know. I definitely know that you will be coming out with a thumping victory. Now in that context, what you do, you will slowly start building your 300-page notes. You will slowly start building your 300-page notes in your first cycle. Now here, when you come to the second cycle, my second cycle is going to be up to March 26th. Now in March 26th, now I definitely know that I would not have completed all of my test series here, that will shift here. And in this phase, it is only Q&A format that you are going to practice. Because at the end of the day, what you are going to do, my dear, at the end of the day, you see that you are not going to write an essay in prelims examination, you are definitely going to select an option or eliminate an option from those 4 options. So what do? I would train my mind in Q&A format. That means on whatever topic I see that I will see some multiple questions. There are different sources for me to look into Q&A approach. Now once I do this, March 26th is a place where you would have completed one whole cycle in its totality. Now you have 2 more months from there, that is your April and May. Now in your April and May, trust me, you are not doing anything new. There is no new source which you are picking up, there is no new website which you are picking up. The only thing that you are doing in the months of April and May, especially from March 26th till April 6th, you are only focusing on current affairs. From March 26th till April 6th, you are focusing on current affairs, which is a 10-day period, which is more than sufficient. If you give all of your day for your current affairs, these 10 days are more than sufficient. Now from April 6th till May 26th, what is going on is revision of all of this. Revision of all of this from May 6th, from April 6th, that means from there how many days roughly you will have? 50 days. Now in that 50 days, how are you going to divide those 50 days? That 50 days are to be divided in multiple phases. That one phase I am going to divide into 15, the other phase I am going to divide into 10, the other phase I am going to divide is with, 15, then 10. Now here what is happening? I see that in this I am finishing my second cycle of revision, whatever I have done here. In this I am finishing my third cycle of revision, whatever I have done here. In this I am finishing my fourth cycle of revision, whatever I have done here. In this 10 days I definitely know I am spending 7 days for revision and 3 days for what, my dear? For 300-page notes. Now how many cycles of revision are we finishing? 4. And trust me, you will be in a feeling that manalevarra apedi. Trust me. On May 25th, you will be like, hit me hard, yeah. You will be like that, hit me hard, yeah. On May 26th, if UPSC is hitting you hard, you will say, oh, I have prepared. Right? I have finished 4 cycles. You want to hit? Hit. I am a very, very strong shield now. I will answer you back. And by the end of May 26th, you will be in celebration of clearing prelims. The key to clear prelims examination is revision and planning your revision cycle, because when you are planning your revision cycle, you are tensed. Anta avvatledu, anta avvatledu, anta avvatledu, anta oddu. I don't need everything. What do I need? I need what is required for this examination. Be very, very clear. Be very, very clear. And one humble request, one humble suggestion, one humble observation that I have made, that please don't be influenced by the others' sources. Believe in your source, and you are doing it right, trust me. Just believe that. Just believe that. Don't mess up by listening to somebody else's sources. Believe in the source that you are referring and blindly go for these 4 cycles of revision. And you will automatically have confidence. Trust me. You will automatically have confidence when you are able to do these things right. Right? Now, the last phase, the most beautiful phase, is what? Jugaad. Right? This is one way that I keep telling, because I don't know, I personally have seen this Jugaad working very well in exam. Now sir, how? Shudra Poojalu emana tayattulu kattichukunnara? Ledu. Common sense. Common sense, which is not so common. We will only have to apply common sense in clearing some questions, in answering some questions. Now for that, people have given the name as eliminations. Right? Let's look at some questions of 2023. Dekh lete. Right? Because eliminations were eliminated, no? Dekhte, ye eliminated tha ki nahi? And please remember, ఇది నిపుణుల పర్యవేక్షణలో మాత్రమే చేయాలి. Right? And this is not post-mortem analysis. Right? ఆ ముఖ చిత్రం చూశారు కదా స్టార్టింగ్ పేజ్లో. That was this year's interview. I finished my interview on 10th January. Right? If I have given interview, I should have cleared prelims. అవునా లేదా? I got some pass, sir. You gave multiple interviews previously. ఇది VIP pass, sir. Jao. UPSC is such a body which represents the utmost form of social justice. It gives everybody equal platform. Intelligent, not intelligent, IITian, non-IITian, doctor, not doctor, arts, science, everybody, rich, poor, backward, forward communities, anything, it gives a single platform. And trust me, what is the beauty of the interview chair of UPSC? At least to sit on that chair, you need to be there, my dear. What is the beauty of it? Is even the richest man of the world cannot buy a ticket to sit on that chair. Even the richest man of the world cannot buy a ticket to sit on that chair. And I am a person who has sat multiple times on that chair. I feel privileged. And if you want to feel the same privilege, what you are supposed to do? Prelims is the only first. You clear, mains comparatively asan. Ho jaye. And once you clear, you are sitting on one of the costliest seats of the world, where it is so costly that nobody can buy it. You will earn it, but you can never buy it. Trust me. Kada, em feeling untada when you are sitting on the interview chair. Come on. Even Ambani's son cannot come and sit on this, because if he has to come here, he has to clear prelims. Dekha hai kya? Right? Because ChatGPT also failed to clear prelims. Yes, but I cleared the same prelims how many times? With all that experience I am telling you. All that experience I am telling you. Right? Now let's see some questions. I'll show you one fun elimination towards the last. Isko dekho yaar. Now people say, sir, elimination. Now they are talking about uranium enrichment in this particular. Hope you are able to see. Kanpichatledha? Zoom aithe I'll read out the question. Statement 1 says India, despite having uranium deposits, depends on coal for most of its electricity production. Ye to common hai, because I know that 60% of my energy basket is from thermal energy, right? More than 50% is from coal, rest 10% is from oil, land. Uranium enriched to the extent of at least 60% is required for the production of electricity. 60% of enrichment. Now if you go for 60% of enrichment, no universe, no galaxy, nothing. Why? 60% of enrichment, at least anta. Padanjudu. Now here, sir, should I know how much should I enrich? I don't need to know. I don't need to know, because I don't have any business of creating uranium bombs here. Do you have any business? No. What is my business? Common sense. My common sense says that if I have to enrich, if I have to add some additional element, maybe less than 1% or 2%, that's all. Maximum I will add is 50%. Don't you think if I add 60%, the inherent character of the material to which I am adding is going to change? Yes, because it is dominated by a product which is being added. Can I eliminate this statement? Yes. Now in this, people say use the elimination technique of number. Why am I using the elimination technique of number? I am not using the elimination technique of number, I am using the common sense of what is the magnitude of number that is given by UPSC. Simple. Now when you eliminate second statement, what is happening, my dear? Two options in this. I know that statement 2 is incorrect. That's all. Now so many people are confused with respect to statement based questions. Now in any statement based questions, first funda is please verify whether the statement 1 is right in itself and statement 2 is right in itself. Now once you verify whether statement 1 is right in itself, statement 2 is right in itself, then you look into the relation of statement 2 with respect to statement 1. This is what is supposed to be seen. It is not this. The direction of the relation has to be very clear. Cause and effect. It should not be effect and cause. Are you understanding this? Right? Let's look at one more. Isko dekho. First of all, I don't know how to pronounce this one. Exam hall, some X and random are not naturally found in India. I don't know, so it is not found. Can thrive only in montane grasslands with no predators. Common sense. Common sense. What is my common sense? If some animal is there, something should be feeding on this. Y should be feeding on X. Then only I see ecosystem has a balance. If there is no y, I definitely know that x keeps on multiplying such that tomorrow even the grasslands will not exist. Logical, common sense. Look at UPSC gave you 2 clues in the statement. If you would have given only in mountain grasslands, you were still skeptical about the statement. It said with no predator. Human beings is one of the most evolved form. We don't have predators. We have. Yes. We just go to some zoo and jump. And what happens? And you can't say, lion, come. Okay, bhai. Common sense. Now they will say, sir, only extreme, eliminate. Now here, what is my fund of showing you all of this is elimination techniques were not eliminated. It's only the problem that people didn't know how to use elimination techniques. People didn't know how to use elimination techniques because elimination techniques were common sense. You want me to show 2 more questions? देख लेते हैं sample क्या है? Because आजकल market में बहुत चल रहा है यार elimination eliminated elimination eliminated. अरे तो 10 की मूड अन्नट्टू. Mushrooms आ गए इधर, right? हाँ. Some mushrooms are ఎన్ని మష్రూమ్స్ ఉండొచ్చు నీకు తెలిసేది ఎన్ని మష్రూమ్స్ నువ్వు తినేది ఒక్కటే నీకు తెలుసు దట్స్ హౌ ఐ థింక్ ఇన్ మై ఎగ్జామ్ హాల్ మై డియర్ ఐ డోంట్ బిహేవ్ లైక్ అన్ ఇంటలెక్ట్ ఐ బిహేవ్ లైక్ ఎ కామన్ మ్యాన్ ఇన్ ఇండియా అబ్జర్వింగ్ డిఫరెంట్ థింగ్స్ దెన్ ఐ లుక్ అట్ దిస్ ఐ డెఫినెట్లీ నో సమ్ మైట్ బి మెడిసినల్ సమ్ మష్రూమ్స్ హ్యావ్ psychoactive properties which I told you no second statement look at that psychoactive మనకు సైకో ఒకటే తెలుసు సైకో యాక్టివ్ ఏంటో తెలియదు అశోక్ నగర్ లో తిరుగుతూ సైకోలు ఎక్కువ తెలుసు మనకు సమ్ మష్రూమ్స్ ఆఫ్ ఇన్సెక్టిసైడల్ ప్రాపర్టీ ठीक है మెడిసినల్ ఇన్సెక్టిసైడల్ ठीक है సమ్ మష్రూమ్స్ ఆఫ్ బయోలుమినిసెంట్ ఇన్ని ఉన్నాయి ఒకటైనా ఉండొచ్చా తెలీదు అది ఉన్నది డిస్కవర్ అయ్యిందో లేదో కూడా తెలియదు yes it might be an undiscovered mushroom which is bioluminescent somewhere in the corner of the ocean it is growing who knows somewhere on your wall it is growing bioluminescent who knows so finally what is going to happen people will say moderate statements are always right this is a moderate statement that is one elimination trick they say technique moderate statements are always right some all I will show you similar trend. There was one more. None. Okay. Avaldama. One more question you want, I will show. Right, for your satisfaction. Because I am already convinced that eliminations were not eliminated. People didn't know how to use it, they got eliminated. Very simple. देखो. Some microorganisms can grow in environment with temperature above boiling point of water. हो सकता है. What are my geysers? What are my hot springs? होगा ना, होगा. Right? If you still want to use knowledge, you have your PCR, polymerase chain reaction. उसमें what kind of bacteria are we using? What kind of microorganisms we are using? Those which are eurythermals, which have large temperature ranges. Some microorganisms can grow in environment with temperature below the freezing point. If they are growing above boiling point, they can also grow in freezing point. Some microorganisms can grow in highly acidic with a pH below 3. ठीक है? Did I say only pH below 3? No. Some, all. Are you understanding? Eliminate. Now do you expect me to sit and study about mushrooms? Rather than that, I would grow mushrooms planty and sell them in the market. You would expect me to study microbiology for answering this question? Pointless, my dear. The problem with most of the aspirants is looking at the diversity of the questions, we are diversifying our sources. We are not learning how to restrict our sources and we are not learning how to answer a question, how to answer a concept diversity through the sources that which we are restricting. And this is what we are doing, right? Last question, okay, for your satisfaction. Last time I will show you some. And whenever I apply these common sense techniques, you know how do I feel inside exam hall? I feel like getting up, coming out of the bench, doing one palti and coming back. excitement, you believe it or not, I enjoy solving prelims. You should be in that phase. You should be like, arre, oh, abba, oh, okay. Are you seeing? You should enjoy. Unless and until you enjoy the process of solving. नहीं हो गया इसको. कुछ देख लेते last. I wanted to show you some none. मैंने बोला था ना यार, इसको देखो. What was the thing? They gave something. They said Article 335 of the Constitution of India defines the term efficiency of administration. If Constitution would have defined efficiency of administration, don't we think we would have at least some efficiency in administration? On a lighter note, but I told you my logic is Constitution is already elephantine. When it is already elephantine, when it is already lengthy, when it is criticized being one of the largest constitutions of the world, if I go on defining everything, what will happen to me? One case. You feel like eliminating polity from civil services. Eliminations were eliminated or not eliminated? They were not eliminated, it's only that people didn't know how to use them. Right? And last part of our lecture today. Don't worry. Right? We're all done. What is HIR? Right? Don't think I has been replaced by or E has been replaced by I. It is HIR, not HER. Right? చాలా మందికి వెలగట్లేదు కూడా. It is not a typo. HIR is a program which was run by R.C. Reddy IAS Study Circle, and we have finished batch 1 almost. Now we are going to have batch 2 starting from February 2nd. Admissions are going on. Now, what is this program all about? Is whatever 300 pages notes that I told you to prepare, I will prepare for you and give you. Right? Because this 300 page notes which has been dictated in the class, which has been given to the students taking this examination or who are attending this course, is my notes which has been used to clear this prelims examination 6 times. So that means 40% of your preparation work is done, because you are going to get this 300 pages notes, right? And apart from this 300 pages notes, how are we going to have this 300 pages notes being given? Is we are going to have 40 sessions, and each session would run for 2.5 hours. That means in total 100 hours we are going to finish whole of your GS. You have the sheet in your hand, that is the schedule. We are going to finish whole of your GS in 100 hours, and by the end of the 100 hours we are going to have this 300 page notes. It will have polity, history, economy, geography, environment, everything. History, law, ancient, medieval, modern, everything in total note size is 300 pages. And I can see some faces who have already attended it, right? If you want, you can ask them. How will you know who have attended? Right? Okay. The second thing is, this is the knowledge part. The next part here that you are going to see is practice. And as part of your practice, you are going to have test series, which is imbibed in this. And the underlying current of the test series, which is conducted as part of HIR, is to cover whole of the syllabus again. So one side we are finishing it in the class, the second we are finishing it in the test series. And out of these 100 hours, 25 hours we are going to have for PYQs. And what is the speciality of those PYQ sessions is, you will see me teaching you how to solve these PYQs in those 25 hours without using knowledge. Without using knowledge in the sense that majorly we will be using certain techniques which are 20 plus. And all of those techniques are based on common sense. And it is not that I will give you only the technique, but I will also give you the logic behind technique. And you will be equipped in such a way that you will derive the 21st technique by yourself. Trust me. Right? So this is what is going to be the course. Along with that, you also have your CSAT. the big devil. 2 minutes on CSAT, then with that we will end. Now when you look at CSAT, people were telling, sir, it is CAT range, MAT range, CMAT range, IIT range, right? It was only UPSC range. None of these ranges. Now what is the range of UPSC? Its range of UPSC is surprise. Now I will tell you one ironical story here. In common life, don't you think if I tell you that meet me tomorrow, I will give you a surprise? Most of you are excited. You will ask me 100 times, sir, chappachu kada, manam barampuram, chappachu kada. Why are you hiding that? I don't want any surprise. Please tell no. I will tell no, I will give you a surprise tomorrow. You are excited to see that surprise. But in prelims examination, the problem with you is, UPSC is telling you, Arey Babu, I will give you surprise. You are not ready to accept it. Go with a mindset that UPSC will definitely have a surprise element. And what are we doing in HIR, high impact revision, is getting ready for that surprise and minimizing the uncertainty in the examination. Because I have a certain notes, when I have a certain notes, when I have a certain technique, when I have a certain revision, when I have certain consolidation, when I have certain approach, and when I have certain orientation, and when I have certain emotional management towards this examination, I know I will definitely counter uncertainty with certainty. And I will make, and we will also see, the subjective examination can be made more objective. Do you remember I made this statement in the beginning? And that can be done in this manner in whatever I told you to do. And when you look at CSAT, one biggest approach that you can look into CSAT is with respect to first finishing your PYQs, and the models that are given in your PYQs with respect to CSAT is a wise approach. And once you do that, identify the areas of CSAT. And once you identify the areas of CSAT, for example, clocks and calendars, a definite question. For example, averages. For example, number system. For example, in the last 2 years, we are having permutation and combinations, right? So all of these are some areas, around 10 topics which are there. If you want an help for that also, we would upload it on the group, that what are the topics that are important for this examination in the context of CSAT. Finish those topics with respect to different models of problems, then you get into reading comprehension. And reading comprehension would demand a lot of practice, and the biggest practice that you get is from your PYQs. Right? I would open the session for questions for 2 minutes. If you want to ask something, you can ask. If it is all fine, if you understood everything, it's fine. If you didn't understand anything, then it's even fine, because ignorance is bliss. Right? Which continues, you please continue in that samadhi state. Right? So this is what is the program about. Now, for more details, that if you want to look into this, that you have a Telegram channel of Asi Reddy, IAS, Study Circle. And you will have a logo, this logo of RCR. Right? I think if you can see the one which is present. For more details you will get with respect to this. Right? I think I already told you for that. For working professionals, I would say that if you are able to take out 6-7 hours now, and one sincere advice would be taking a leave in the month of May. Taking a leave in the month of May, I think if you are very serious about this examination, then that is what is highly suggestible, because one thing that if you are able to touch 6-7 hours every day, somehow pull off on weekends, if you are able to take off like roughly 10 plus hours, considering you have holidays on weekends, then you are good to go. The same cycle will follow. So considering the first time, see, the maximum that will happen in this is you will have those extended targets. If you are finishing by Feb 26, for you it will be March 6th. Just extended targets, because hopefully others are going to study 10 hours. Ante undadu. Right? Anukuntam ante. Right? Is this clear? Right? Right? How is the Josh? How is the Josh? How is the Josh? Adi. Prelims is easy or tough now? कुछ तो कर सकते हैं यार, आसान है अभी, right? Yes or no? Right? All the best. Hope to see you in HR sessions, right? HR sessions will be starting on February 2nd from morning 6 to 8:30. For some of you it is midnight 6. For some of you it is early morning 6. Whatever it is, the reason for putting between 6 to 8:30 is rest of the day is free for you, that you can do whatever you want. Finish this class. If you are able to practice for rest of the day, you are good to go. Right? That's it from my side, my dear. Thank you.